morning and welcome back to Football League World TV. We've got a debate show coming up for you this morning where we're going to be looking at Burnley ahead of their championship return and asking the question whether Vincent Kompany can lead the Clarets back to the Premier League. I'm your host, Alfie Burns, and joining me is my colleague, Billy Mulley. Billy, how are you getting on this morning?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. We spoke a little bit off air about what this season could hold for Burnley. It's set to be an exciting one. Championship football is always an exciting division. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on and what business they can continue to do.
Absolutely plenty to discuss from all that's going on at Turf Moor at the moment. We're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter this morning. If you're a Burnley fan joining us and want to get involved in the debate, please do get yourself in the comments. If you're just a general EFL fan and want to share your opinions of the Clarets, please do, and we'll look to get your comments up on the show. First place to start then is with Vincent Kompany, appointed as Burnley's new manager in mid-June, becoming Sean Dyche's permanent successor after 10 years of Dyche at Turf Moor. Billy, the place to start then, what was your initial reaction to Kompany's appointment?
Yeah, I was excited by it. Probably casting our eyes a little bit back before that. I was probably like most of the footballing world, I was a little bit surprised by the departure of Dyche, sort of as the manager that's managed to do very well at the bottom end of the Premier League with a budget that can't really be compared to the majority of clubs in the Premier League. So he's someone that sort of thrived in that kind of pressure situation. But then along comes Vincent Kompany and a completely different philosophy in the infancy of his managerial career. An exciting appointment, as we've sort of said before. He's somebody that's had an excellent sort of education through being involved in a Pep Guardiola squad, being an integral part of Pep Guardiola squad, being an experienced member of that Manchester City squad as well. It's going to be something that I imagine rubs off well when going into a managerial role. We said before, we didn't really, it wasn't the best spell during Anderlecht. It wasn't as good as it could be, but at the same time, it wasn't a bad spell at all. They did play some very good football under Kompany, and there was sort of there was a process in place, and they were going somewhere. But at the same time, it wasn't the best that we could have imagined. But sort of coming into the here and now at Burnley, it's a big job at hand, given the amount of player situations that are yet to be resolved. A lot can still happen with the transfer market, so it's a big job on his hands, but an exciting one for Burnley.
Yeah, I mean, as you sort of touched on there, Kompany's at an early stage of his managerial career. The spell at Anderlecht is quite a small sample size for us to be breaking down, but we're expecting a different sort of style and approach to what we saw with Burnley from Sean Dyche.
Yeah, I think what we've seen already is the average age of the squad has come down dramatically. They're not just recruiting to target promotion next season. They're recruiting to, be sustainable in what they do. Someone like Scott Twine that they've brought in, I know we'll probably go in a bit more detail to his signing, but he's somebody that can play a big part in the Championship at the top end of the division in the here and now. But he's also somebody that could probably emerge as a Premier League player in the future. So they've definitely got the future in mind. It's definitely a sustainable approach. And, if promotion isn't achieved this season, if it's not an automatic bounce back, they've still got good processes in place. It's not like they're throwing all their sort of money, throwing all their resources at getting promoted the first time around, because it's complete change of philosophy, complete change of direction from the club. And whilst they do have a good squad that probably are capable of competing at the top end of the division, it's not the sole objective at the moment. It's not just about bouncing back, I think.
We are in the thick of the transfer window at this moment in time, and Burnley have been busy. Some high-profile departures, Ben Mee and James Tarkowski. Of course, Nick Pope has been sold to Newcastle, and Wout Weghorst has also departed on loan. The first three of those, Mee, Tarkowski and Pope, Billy, are quite significant departures given how important they were to Burnley's defensive structure. Big departures, but probably expected on the back of relegation.
Yeah, it was always going to be very, very difficult to keep hold of any of those three. Ben Mee, obviously a player that's an intelligent defensive mind, been a top performer for Burnley for many years. Same can be said with Tarkowski, who, is probably still got England aspirations. I know it's sort of a difficult thing to do at this stage of his career, but he's put in consistent performances. He's a solid defender. He's somebody that's proven to thrive in the Premier League before. So it was no surprise to see him head immediately back to the Premier League. And then Nick Pope in a similar kind of situation where he does have ambitions to go on and feature for England in the World Cup coming up. So, yeah, it was always going to be difficult to keep hold of those three. Going on to Weghorst, it wasn't the kind of arrival that most Burnley fans would have expected. Obviously showed glimpses of the price tag that they paid for him, a big player that's contributed in some ways, but it didn't really gain that consistency, wasn't a consistent scorer of goals during his time with Burnley. I think personally Weghorst going, I think that's a little bit of a blessing in disguise. It probably opens the scope for Kompany to perhaps recruit another forward, maybe a younger, more hungry forward that could come in and offer something completely different to the attacking options they've currently got. But at the same time, those four players are senior players. And whilst you're trying to add a more youthful squad at Burnley, I don't think sort of the experience can be understated in this kind of situation. You don't just adapt back to Championship football. It's going to be a rigorous process, but something that I still believe they've got enough sort of characters within the squad at the moment to be able to do that.
Some of the players coming in then, Taylor Howard-Bellis, Luke McNally, CJ Egan-Riley arrived to bolster the defence after Mee and Tarkowski move on. We've also added Scott Twine's goals after a brilliant season at MK Dons. Let's just talk about the defensive revamp first of all, Billy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, again, you can see there's a clear shift of emphasis. Ben Mee, Tarkowski, both very, very good defenders, but very experienced. And, the signings of Howard-Bellis, McNally and Egan-Riley, they're youthful players that are nowhere near their peaks at the moment. Players that, again, it sort of suggests that notion I spoke about earlier about they're not putting sort of all their resources on getting promoted straight away. That they're trying to build something. They're trying to lower the average age and trying to build something with Vincent Kompany at the helm. So it's no surprise to see sort of these three players coming in. Howard-Bellis, we sort of mentioned a little bit before we came on air. He's gained a lot of Championship experience already. So that's something that can be applied straight away. Probably aid the transition from going from the Premier League to the Championship. McNally as well, very, very exciting defender who enjoyed a really, really strong season with Oxford. Attracted the likes of Tottenham as well. So he's somebody that's nowhere near his peak. He probably can adapt to Championship football straight away, and he probably has the scope of becoming a Premier League player once again. So I do like these additions. Egan-Riley as well. He's just very, very similar to what we've already spoken about. So these are players that are going to progress. They're going to be on this upward trajectory right from the very off. And the sky's the limit, really, with these kind of defenders.
One player we've got to discuss, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the Championship, is Scott Twine. 20 goals and 13 assists in 47 appearances across the League One campaign and the playoffs last season. Do you think he can replicate that kind of form in the Championship?
Yeah, I think there's definitely scope for Scott Twine to carry on improving around better players as well. I'm sure he'll start to thrive again. Offers a lot of versatility, really. We've seen during his days with MK Dons last year, he was deployed as an attacking midfielder on the wing, sort of as part of a two, just ahead of the midfield as well as a striker. So he's a player that can play in all these different positions. He can provide a similar kind of service in each of these positions. But he's also, one of the things that I noticed last year was how unselfish he was. 33 goal contributions is amazing in itself. But when taken into account, he's somebody that's always trying to he's not selfish in the way that he only thinks about scoring goals himself. He's somebody that if there's a player in a better position, he will be able to scope and find them out. He's a really, really exciting player. Played sort of a level above League One level last season, and he's somebody that can adapt straight away to Championship football, and under a manager like Vincent Kompany, and having a long pre-season as well. This sort of deal was done quite early, so Kompany would have got his ideas into him already, and I think that's something that will only enhance him as a player going into this season.
Let's just stick with incomings for the moment then. Samuel Bastian's been added to the midfield, and there's quite wide reports that Josh Cullen could be following Kompany from Anderlecht to Burnley. Do you feel that midfield area is now the priority for Burnley?
Yeah, I guess so. They've still got a fair bit of experience in the midfield, but at the same time, if they can add Bastian, if they can add Cullen whilst adding Bastian, I'm pretty sure that that's going to be, one of the strongest midfields in the division. You've really got everything there. You've got sort of the technique and the craft of Cullen. Bastian, sort of a relentless but also technically gifted midfielder. The experience that other players like Brownhill will bring. Brownhill as well, another sort of technically gifted midfield operator that we didn't really see the best of in the Premier League, given the style of football that was just sort of deployed at Burnley in the Premier League. I'm sure coming into the Championship, if he does remain with Burnley, he's somebody that could thrive. There's some good options in midfield. If Cullen's added to that, I'm sure he'll have a really, really good season.
Yeah, there's still plenty of the transfer window left. Overnight, it's emerged that Nathan Collins is closing in on a £20 million move to Wolves and a Premier League return. There's also plenty of speculation surrounding Maxwell Cornet and Dwight McNeil, two of Burnley's, sort of key creators. Sort of two-part question here, Billy. Who do you think that they can return, and who do you think that they need to return out of some of those high-profile names?
Yeah, as you say, that they're all very, very good players. I think it's appearing that Collins is edging closer to an exit. And if he does, he's going to generate a hefty enough fee. Obviously, a very, very talented and very, very useful centre-back. But at the same time, if you can generate sort of, higher than £20 million, which is being reported at the moment, then that's a kind of fee that could help reinvest into the rest of the squad as well. Something that's not just going to help in recruiting another defender. It's something that can be reinvested in several positions within the squad. So whilst that's going to be a initial blow, it's something that probably presents a bigger opportunity than it does a risk. Looking at Cornet and McNeil, you'd like to think that they'd keep one of them. They'd definitely be striving to keep one of them. Again, two players that could generate a hefty enough fee and can be reinvested in different positions. But Cornet or McNeil in the Championship would be absolutely brilliant. Cornet had a really, really strong season. Reports are coming out that he's not really pushing for a move away. He's not really angling a move away, which will come as a boost. But if competition levels continue to drive for his signature, it's going to become a lot more difficult. I think half the Premier League are probably after Dwight McNeil at the moment. What he's shown with Burnley and with various levels at England youth setup, I think it's going to be a very, very difficult task in keeping any of them. But at the same time, Vincent Kompany is a big attraction point to new signings, and I think he's probably a big attraction point for players looking to continue their careers at Burnley. So I think we'll have to wait and see on those ones. If it all comes crashing down, they do lose all three, well, then they've generated a lot of money that can be reinvested into the squad and probably be a boost for their what we expect to be a promotion push next year.
Just before we wrap things up then, let's look at Burnley's start to the season. They start at Huddersfield away, then they face your club Luton at home, Billy. Watford away, then Hull and Blackpool at home, Wigan away, Millwall at home. Those 7 fixtures see them through until the end of August. How important do you think it is for Vincent Kompany that they have a good opening month or so?
Yeah, I think always when you're coming down a division, the start is very, very important. I don't think it's the be all and end all if they don't manage to start on the front foot. I think it's quite a difficult opening set of fixtures, especially the first three, and then looking at the seventh one, Millwall as well. Huddersfield away, that's very, very tough, even with the sort of Carlos Corberán departure. I think they're going to still be as strong. They've got a squad there that's capable of playing different styles of football. They're capable of being a goal down. They're capable of protecting a lead. They're capable of going all out on attack and sort of finding a way to stretch through and break through a defence. Luton at home, they've made a good start, Luton, to the summer transfer window. Again, they'll have their eyes on the top 6 places. Watford away, that's of course going to be very, very difficult, in a similar kind of position to Burnley, I guess. Watford with a relatively inexperienced manager coming in and tasked with Championship football for the first time and coming down from the Premier League. So be interesting to see how they fare up as well. Hull and Blackpool, you probably look now, 2 home games that they'll be targeting for wins. I think Hull's takeover will make them a little bit more ambitious about what the new season can hold. But ultimately, they haven't done too much business yet. So that they're probably at risk of not starting the season as quick as they could have. Blackpool as well, change of management. It remains to be seen of change of style. So they'll be probably targeting that. Wigan away, I think Wigan might adapt quite well to the Championship once again, but the amount of talent Burnley have, it's going to make it difficult for them to get anything from that. And then Millwall have made some really, really smart additions already. I'm looking forward to seeing what Millwall could do this season, but again, it's going to be a tough task playing against Burnley, especially with this game coming at Turf Moor. It's difficult to really say how I think they'll do, but it's going to be 12 to 14 points, I think would be a very, very good return from them sort of opening fixtures. But whether they can start on the front foot, it sort of remains to be seen at this point.
Finally then, looking at Burnley's squad as it is, what's your sort of gut feeling with them? Where do you see them finishing? I know it's very early for predictions, but we might as well get one.
Yeah, at this point, it's, as you say, it's quite difficult. But at the same time, looking at those fixtures, looking at the business they've done so far, looking at sort of the player situations that still need to be decided, I've mentioned it to you just before we came off air, I can see it being a similar kind of situation to Sheffield United, where they don't have the quickest of starts. As we say, Cornet, McNeil, Collins, these are situations that haven't been resolved or sorted out as of yet. There's still plenty more rumoured players coming in, and by the time Vincent Kompany sort of instills and embeds his ideas onto these players, it could be difficult to justify them having a strong start to the campaign. But it's a strong squad. It's plenty of characters, plenty of youthful talent. There's definitely balance within the squad. An exciting young manager. It's really, really difficult to say how they're going to start. But I think progressing, they'll start to pick up. I think they'll gain consistency, and there'll be some force to stop come the end of the season. I can see them finishing in the top 6, but yeah, as I say at the start, I think it might be a sort of mediocre start to the campaign.
That concludes this morning's debate show then. Thanks to everybody that's joined us. Thanks to you as well, Billy. Coming up later in the week on Football League World TV, we've got another debate show looking at whether Luton can challenge again for promotion in the Championship. You're on air for that, Billy. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's as you say, it's another difficult one. It's very, very hard to assess at this stage where the squad are currently at and what the ambitions might be.
Yeah, and then I think we're going to run through the latest transfer news in the EFL transfer zone as well tomorrow. So 2 great shows coming up for you tomorrow. So please do join us again. And between now and then, take care.